Hey everyone, in today's video I'm going to be testing out a $10 dupe for the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette. As you can see right now, I have the eye look on that I just created using both of the palettes. So this is the Bad Habit Athena palette. I was sent this palette by Hush. So basically they're a website and they have an app where they sell super affordable makeup. I think that everything on their website is around $10. They have a lot of dupes for other eyeshadow palettes as well. They sent me a bunch of different palettes, which I'm going to be doing a haul on all of the things that they sent me. It's going to come after this video. So the Desert Dusk palette is $65 and then the Bad Habit Athena palette is $10. So that's a huge price difference between the two palettes. They are literally the exact same size. For a $10 palette, this feels super nice. The only difference between the two is that the Desert Dusk palette is a little bit heavier than the Athena palette. I'm gonna try and show you guys the insides without blinding you. When you open them up, the Huda Beauty palette has a little bit bigger of a mirror, and then the Athena palette one is a little bit smaller. The colors in the palettes are the exact same. The only difference is that in the Bad Habit palette, they're laid out in a little bit different of an order. So first I'm gonna show you guys side-by-side swatches of all of the shades from both of the palettes. So here are the first row of swatches. The left shade is the Desert Dusk palette, and then the right shade is the Bad Habit palette. I am honestly shocked, you guys, at how similar these are. The pigmentation of the Athena palette is just insane. I cannot believe that for $10, these shades are so smooth and buttery. You cannot really even tell the difference. Some of the shades, the tones are a little bit off, but overall, when you apply them to your eyes, they definitely look pretty much the same. So here is the next row of swatches. Once again, the shade on the left is the Desert Dusk palette and the shade on the right is the Athena palette. I'm just so shocked right now because some of the shades from the $10 palette look better than the $65 palette. Here is the final row. I am so blown away right now because some of the shades from the Athena palette are more pigmented and more buttery than from the Desert Dusk palette. If you see these shades down here, this is from the Athena palette, and so is this one, and then these are Desert Dusk. That is just crazy. So I really want to go ahead and show you guys like some of the standout shades so that you can see them as I'm swatching them. So I'm gonna first do, let's say, the shade Cashmere. I believe it's Triumph on my other finger. This is Desert Dusk. This is Bad Habit. Next we're going to do Angelic, and then in this palette it is called Medusa. There is Desert Dusk and Athena. Now we're gonna do some of the matte shades. I'm gonna take Blazing, and on my other finger, Lure. Here is Desert Dusk. Here is Athena. Last shade, I'm gonna do one of the foiled shades. I'm gonna take Retrograde, and in this palette it's called Gleam. Here is Desert Dusk. Here is Athena. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the tutorial. Okay, so I've already primed both of my lids with concealer and then set them with powder. So first I'm gonna pick up the shade Desert Sand from the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette. I'm gonna be using the Huda Beauty palette on my right eye and then the Bad Habit palette on my left eye. So I'm using a Morphe E27 brush and I'm just gonna run this all throughout my crease. When I switch between the palettes, I'm gonna be cleaning my brush because I really wanna be using the same brushes for each side. I'm gonna be using the Sephora Daily Brush Cleaner to clean them in between shades. So basically you just spray it onto a towel and then you just run your brush over the cleaner and then you can use it immediately after. So now for the other side, I'm picking up the shade Purity from the Bad Habit palette. And I'm just gonna do the exact same thing. There is a little bit more fallout with the Bad Habit palette. Honestly, I can't really tell a difference between the two shades right now. I actually feel like the Bad Habit side is a little bit more pigmented than the Huda Beauty side, surprisingly. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean my brush again. I'm gonna be using the same brush and I'm gonna be picking up the shade Eden from the Huda Beauty palette. And I'm just gonna put this right over the previous shade. So the shade like this in the Bad Habit palette is called Velour. I am like really shocked because this $10 eyeshadow palette, like the mattes, blend out super easily and they're actually pretty pigmented. So now I'm gonna switch over to a smaller blending brush. I'm gonna pick up the shade Amber from the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette and I'm gonna put this shade right in my crease, starting from the outer corner and blending in. So now I'm just gonna clean my brush off and then I'm gonna pick up the shade Heroic from the Bad Habit palette. That is it on the brush. That's actually super pigmented. I'm gonna do the exact same thing, starting from my outer corner and blending in. What is that chunk right there? This shade is definitely a little patchy. I don't know why there's like these weird like spots of color over here that are not blending. So here's where you really start to see the difference between the $65 palette and the $10 palette. This side is blended out pretty nicely. There's no patchiness. But when I started adding a darker color and blending, it kind of gets patchy. I mean, you can definitely make it work for a $10 palette, but that's just something to keep in mind. So now I'm gonna move on to the shade that I really wanna compare, and that is the purple shade, which in the Huda Beauty palette is called Amethyst. And I'm gonna be using a Luxie 229 tapered blending brush to apply this into my crease. I'm gonna switch over to my Sigma E25 brush because this one is a little bit flatter and more tapered than the Luxie one. So in the Bad Habit palette, the matching shade is called Justice. There it is on the brush. Just picking it up, it doesn't look as pigmented as the one in the Huda Beauty palette. I really want to use as many shades from both of the palettes as possible. So now I'm going to go in with the shade Saffron from the Huda Beauty palette. I'm just going to clean off my brush and pick up the shade Power from the Bad Habit palette. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. The Bad Habit side, which is the $10 side, is a little bit less pigmented, a little bit more patchy, and I have a lot of fallout on my face, whereas on the Huda Beauty side, it's not as patchy, the shades are a little bit more pigmented, and I don't have really any fallout on my face at all. So now I'm gonna go in with this small blending brush. This is a Morphe M578 brush, and I'm picking up the shade OUD from the Huda Beauty palette, and I'm gonna put this right on my outer corner. Then I'm going to pick up the shade Clever from the Bad Habit palette. Now this doesn't look like an exact dupe for the other one. It's a little bit more of a warm chocolatey brown, whereas the one in the Huda Beauty palette looks a little bit darker and more cool toned. Okay, so for all of the lid, I'm going to be using the shade Twilight from the Huda Beauty palette, and I'm just going to apply that with my finger. I love this shade. The shade in the Bad Habit palette is called Epic. I'm going to use my other finger and apply that all over the lid. There's a lot of fallout. So this shade is not as like foiled as the shade in the Huda Beauty palette. The colors don't really even look the same. So since that doesn't really match, I'm going to use some MAC Fix Plus and see if I can get that color to be a little bit more pigmented. So I'm going to spray my brush. This is a Bodyography Pro Flat Shader Brush. Well, it definitely applies better with a wet brush. Now I'm just going to apply some mascara to my top lashes. So I went ahead and applied some lashes. These are the Pure Pro eyelashes. These are the style Diva. These are like my favorite lashes of all time. Now I'm gonna go ahead and start the lower lash line. I'm gonna go back in with the shade Eden from the Huda Beauty palette and smudge this right underneath my lower lash line. Making sure to connect that to my outer corner. Now I'm gonna clean off my brush and pick up the shade Velour. So then I'm going to be taking my Morphe M432 brush, which is a flat definer brush, and I'm going to pick up the shade Amber from the Desert Dusk palette, and I'm going to put this shade a little bit closer to my lower lash line. Then for the other side, I'm taking Heroic and doing the exact same thing. So I want to tie in the purple from the lid to the lower lash line, so I'm going to pick up the shade Amethyst and I'm going to press this right up against my lower lash line. Now I'm taking Justice for the other side. I'm just going to apply some mascara to my bottom lashes. So this is the completed look. Now that it's all done, I honestly cannot really even tell the difference between the two sides. I need you to look at my eyes really quick. This side was one eyeshadow palette and then this one was another.
It looks the same to me.
Exactly the same? Are there any differences?
Nope.
Honestly, both of the sides look pretty much the same. The only real difference is the lid shade. I cannot believe that a $10 eyeshadow palette looks almost exactly the same as a $65 eyeshadow palette. They performed pretty much the same. The only difference was that the Athena palette was a little bit patchy and less pigmented, but considering it's only $10, it did pretty well. I would definitely say that the Athena palette is pretty much an exact dupe for the Desert Dusk palette. If you're looking to save some money, definitely check out the Athena palette. I'll have all of the information of where to buy the palette in my description box below. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Also, make sure you check out my description box below. I have links to my other social media accounts as well as my website. Also, I'm doing 2 giveaways right now, so I'll have links to those as well. I'm doing a 1,000 subscriber giveaway where you can win a Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette. I'm also doing a holiday giveaway. It's gonna have 2 winners. You're gonna win either one of the Joseph Colors holiday lip sets. Also, make sure you click the bell so you can receive notifications of when I post new videos. Thank you so much for watching.